Yeah.
I'd like to call this regular town council meeting to order. If I can get a roll call, please.
Chair Galib,
Here.
Councilor Bragdon,
Here.
Councilor Danforth,
Here.
Councilor Bedore,
Here.
Councilor McEwen,
Here.
Councilor Pelletier,
Here.
Councilor Cray.
Here. Thank you all. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to have a moment of silence for the school shooting in Texas and all the innocent lives that were lost there and their families that are grieving. Thank you, and I pray that doesn't happen here. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. There's an adjustment to the agenda. There's a correction on order number 120, 2022, and
Request to move the ATV period.
on which order? And I'd like to move that we place order number 117 out of order to before the town manager's report following a special presentation. So motion by chair and seconded by Councilor McEwen. All those in favor? Raise hands now that we're all here. All right, thank you all. And with that, seeking approval of the minutes of May 12th, 2022 regular meeting and May 10th, 2022 executive session.
So
Second. Motion by Councilor Bragdon, seconded by Councilor Medora. All those in favor? 7-0, that's so much easier. And with that, special presentations, we have John Raymond here to discuss the ATV trail system, provide some updates.
Hold it, look at it. Thank you, Chairman Goley. Appreciate giving me the time here for this. My name is John Raymond, 236.
Hold on a second, I'll take.
Hello, my name is John Raymond. I live at 236 Highland Avenue, resident of Millinocket, president of Northern Timber Cruisers, and vice president of ATV Maine. I want to pass this paper up to you tonight. Yeah. We just fit in that seat. Still right that seat,
it's also.
yeah. It's up in the- yeah. So the reason I come to talk to you guys tonight, the council and all your members, in 2007, we started Carmet West and started getting the permits and monies to start this trail going to West of Boys. And in 2012, we opened it. From then, we started working on Carmet East. And Carmet is Catawba Regional Multi-Use Trail. A lot of people don't know what that means, but Marsh McKee gave it the name and we left it with that. So we figured east, west, going to West of Boys, east, going East Millinocket. So in 2014, we started with that. And we ran into quite a few roadblocks. Going west, we only had to deal with one landowner. Made it real easy. Going east, we had several landowners. And every time I came up with a plan, I ran into the same landowner that doesn't allow ATVing on their property. And we also found that it was an 80 acre parcel that was blocking us, and we even offered to purchase it. And we couldn't get that deal to fall through, so. I went back to the drawing board 7 more times, and it took me 7 years. I finally found a trail around it. So then I had to go to a couple of the landowners, and Town Forest Management had given us the okay, verbal okay to begin with, so that made it okay for me to work for the other 2 landowners. And it took me about a year and a half. We had to scope out some area and meet with the landowners and the foresters, and they had to check it over. We had to GPS these trails. So in the end, we found a route to East Millinocket. And East Millinocket started a couple of years ago. They actually completed their part, was going from East Millinocket to Melanocka. So they beat me to the punch on that one. I thought I was gonna get to them first, and then they ended up beating us there. So, but that was good, because now that connection, once we make this connection, you'll be able to go from Millinocket, East Millinocket, Medway, Melanocka. And once you get to Melanocka, then you can go north or south to either Fort Kent or Cutler. It opens up over 3,000 more miles of trails that you don't have to trailer to. And it also will give us a loop. We'll have a loop now that a lot of people like that. One of the complaints we always heard was that people would ride up from the west, and if they ride up on the same trail and had to go back on the same trail. So now they'll be able to come through, go down the LaGrange, make the loop down, make the loop around. So it's about a 100-mile loop, and it'll be a good ride. So we came up with one trail, but during the time that it took us to do this, there was a change in management with KFM. So we had the approval from one vice president, but when the new vice president came in, he had a little bit different idea what we were gonna do. So we had to go then look at another possible route. So as you're looking at the map up here, the original trail that was approved was the red line one, which both these trails are gonna leave Northern Timber Creek. The trail that goes along the road that comes out by the sawmill, and they were gonna allow us to use the state of the road, they call it Millinocket stream crossing. Well, that kind of got shot down because they didn't want us on the road. So we had to find a different route there. So that's the yellow one that goes up around the campground. So we're not interfering with that. And it actually hits the snowmobile trail that's already there, and it comes out across from the culverts on the station road. So then we get over into across the culverts into the pits, and then there were concern of some areas over there. So they had us look at that other yellow line that connects to the purple one. They wanted to go through there, and we took a couple days, Amador did. And it took a couple days and looked it over, and it was a cedar swamp, and we found a way through, but it had a lot of water in it. So to help us out with this, the director of the ATV division, Brian Bronson, came up and had a meeting with KFM. And he explained to them all the new things that they're doing. So now the state will, if you allow people to use a logging road for an ATV trail, they will grade and manage that road for them. So it's a value added to them. So, you know, they takes care of their roads. So once you get out of the meeting, the manager, what they want us to do is GPS some 2 routes again, and then they're gonna lay them on their map and see which one they're gonna make us go through. But the problem that I had was I was under a time constraint. This grant has to be in by the 30th of this month, and there's only 2 times you meet during the month, And it all kind of fell apart at one point. I had met with the chair and the manager and telling them that, you know, there's an issue. So with Brian meeting with them, the issue got resolved. And it allowed us now, they gave them a verbal that we're gonna have the trail. We just don't know exactly where it's gonna be. So they're sending up a state employee to go out with Arnold again, GPS the two, and then get them tracks into them, and then they'll make the decision in a short amount of time. So we're hoping that it's gonna use the red trail, because that's what they used to call the Cogan Trail. And it's already there. We would just have to fix the road up some, do some culverting, and then it comes out onto a couple different logging roads, and we gotta build a couple areas across. But it really makes it easy for us. Then there's one bridge we have to build. When you see that where the yellow and the red and the purple connect, just up a little bit from that, it was Scudic Brook. And it's a pretty important piece of water there. So having talked with the Somerville division, I was able to procure some beams from them, because the state, when they take bridges down and stuff like that, they collect these. They don't throw anything away. They use a different spot. Well, they were over in Greenville, so we already got them, brought them over. Pelletier Manufacturing got to take care of them for us. But it's good sized bridge. It's gonna be 75-footer. So the one down in West Boyce is 60, so it's 15 more feet than that one. That's the only bridge we have to build. And then the trail continues up and it hits the Huber Road. You can see that main road going through there. And then it hits, yep, right there. And then it goes across the road and it heads up through there, which there's just a little bit of area that has to be built, and then it connects onto another road. So out of if we get to go the yellow to the red, the purple, it's about 11.2 miles. And only about a little bit under 3 miles, it has to be constructed or reconstructed. So it's a pretty good deal for us. When we went to West Boyce, it was 16 miles of trail. They had to go through the woods and build it. So this should be something that, if things fall in place, we're hope to get this open this year. So the only thing I have to wait for now is once they get the grant approval, if you guys approve the grant tonight, I will send that in it's gonna be in by the 30th. And the ATV division, Brian knows it's coming. And then they'll look at the amount that we're looking at. And then they'll send back the approval to us. We can start then. The Huber and Haynes portion of it, they're all ready to go get working on it, but I can't give the okay until I get the approval of the grant. And that was the other thing that held it up when KFM was kind of holding back on us. We couldn't do anything because the state wasn't going to pay money for a trail that didn't go anywhere. So the other thing that we got is what I just passed out to you. All the time I'm applying for other grants, all the time. You know, anything I can find, I throw in a grant. So this grant here, it's called the Yamaha Outdoor Access Initiative. It's a national grant. You compete nationally for this thing. And we were awarded a $25,000 grant. We've already got the money. And what this grant is gonna be earmarked for is building of that bridge and signage. We're gonna have kiosks on this. And we've got to do a real good job on this trail because we're using logging roads and there's gonna be a temptation to wanna go the other way where the trail doesn't wanna go. So we're gonna make sure that they stay on the trail. So signage is a key important part of this whole deal. So, if we're awarded this municipal grant, with the 25,000, we're talking about $135,000. And the other aspect of it is the state's made the commitment, because we don't know right now, prices are going up, cost of fuel and everything. These are all estimates. And I had to do it in a real quick amount of time. So if there is an increase, they've already committed that whatever the increase will be, they're gonna take care of it. They want this trail built because of the importance of it. It's going to connect two of the largest trail systems in the state. We've always been the donut hole, what we call it. Couldn't get through. one thing I want to mention is there was no Yamaha dealer in this area. Jackman Power Sports was the dealership that wrote a letter of support for us, so I really want to thank them a lot. Without that, we probably wouldn't have got this $25,000 grant. So the steps that we need to be done is get the grant supported by the town, send it in, wait for the grant, and then start the project. One thing that we gotta, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about. In these permits for this Comet West and the Comet East, with all the landowners, part of this, and I know Councilman Medora remember this, part of this permit process is the landowner requires policing on it, above and beyond the regular IF&W game wardens out there. And we had agreed to that way back in 2007, and when we got the permit for it. So with that, at the time, the Rotary stepped up to the plate and purchased a side-by-side, and the IF&W gave funds towards it too to help the purchase this thing. So every year, the police department puts in a spring and a fall grant. So for this policing, it's no cost to the town of Millinocket or East Millinocket. It's all paid for through the grant process, and the monies come right from the ATV division. So that's where it's all derived from ATVing, and it supports ATVing. So I don't know what the process is with this side-by-side right now, but we need to have it here for the policing of this trail, because right now it's open, and they gotta be looking at the Comet West, and then when we get going east, we've got to really do a good job of policing going east too. But the biggest issue is more so around town. And I'll touch on that just a little bit. Pete knows where I'm gonna go with this. I've heard over the last few years, I've had a few of the police officers come up to me and said, geez, we're looking for the map. We don't know what the rules are, and stuff like that. So this year, this spring, Andy Glidden, Don Bolduc, myself, and Amador got together, and we started formulating a list. And we took from other communities and looked what they had, and we kind of put it together, something that's gonna work for here. Well, we got out of the meeting Tuesday, and everybody left with a copy of it, and I think somebody thought it was a finalized list yet, but I know, having been on the council, that these type of things, you have to, I wanted the council to look at it, and I believe Dean's probably gonna have to look at it, just to get his opinion on it. And then, you know, there could be some mistakes and stuff like that, or it could be a spelling error or whatever. Once we get that finalized, then we will publish it. Well, it got out onto the website, and there was a lot of questions, and I started getting emails, texts. I'm like, well, where's this coming from? So then I went online, I found it. So I was like, oops, that didn't happen the way we wanted to. So I apologize for that. So, and the other thing that I want to just mention too is I want to get it clarified, because we had an issue with it last year, is with this grant, and we had the understanding last year when we got the $65,000 grant, that we ended up putting the money into the Comet West, because we're preparing the Comet West Trail for the traffic that's going to come through here. It's going to be huge. So we want to get that up to snuff first, getting ready for this trail going to east. So we ended up, I got the bills and I brought it in and said, here you go. And the figure that was gonna be paid, and we were gonna do what we normally did. The bill would get paid through the town, because it's a pass through the town of Millinocket. It's a municipal grant. That's why it's called a municipal grant. So I gave the bill to the town, and then I got a call one morning and said, no, you guys are gonna pay this bill. So the first bill was $42,000. Well, we probably would have been able to write a check for it, but it would have drained us. And what we did on the Comet West Trail, that was $500,000 when it finally close to $500,000 for that trail to get put in. What we did there was, we would turn in the bills to the town would pay the bill, and then when the reimbursement come through the town would take the monies out of it, and if there was any left over, it was given to the club, and if there was, because there's a match on it, and if we don't have enough in kind, then the club is on the hook for that, and we always paid it. Well, this fall, it didn't happen that way. And just with the luck of Brian Coleman, he stood up to the plate and said, I'll wait for the reimbursement. Now, sit on $42,000, he's already been spent, did the work, and he was good about it, that he waited for the reimbursement to come through. So I would like to see us kind of do what we were doing before, and that's why I like to have you guys talk about it. It's nothing that's gonna be decided right now, because the work's not gonna be starting for a little bit, but this is gonna be closer to 130, maybe even more, if the cost go up a little bit. And there's never been a cost to the town. We're on the hook for it's a 90-10 now. It used to be 70-30, but 2 years ago, the state upped the match from 70-30 to 90-10. And that's because they want a lot more work to get done on these trails. And this year here, the registration rate went up $25, but it's direct funding. It goes directly to the trail. And that's gonna create another $2 million a year to go onto the trails for bringing them up to spec. So I just wanted to let you guys know. I've been wanting to bring this out for a long time, but I was waiting to get all the permits in hand. And I've got 2 of the permits in hand. One of them is a verbal, the third one is a verbal one. So once we get the track laid out, we'll get that third permit in hand. I'll feel a lot safer. So good news for us. I believe it's gonna be real good news for the community. And that's why we worked on the access routes, and also the new stuff that we're gonna be doing for the access routes. We're planning on purchasing a large stencil for the road. We're gonna spray the road because there was some concern with, we had some complaints of putting signs on the telephone poles. And, you know, I put 30-something signs out one night, and I got a call about it. So I went back the next morning, took 30 signs down. And as I was taking them down, I was seeing school signs and this sign and that sign on the same pole, you know. So I said, well, whatever, we don't want to cause a problem. But a lot of people have said at first they like the way we mark the road, but we're going to do a little bit better idea with it. We're going to have a stencil that looks just like the ATV access route sign. We didn't want to use yellow, we didn't want to use red. We didn't want to use blue or white, because those are all the colors that are used on the road right now. So we're going with the same green as the access route. And when you come out, let's say you're coming out of by the sawmill, there'll be a stencil there that's going to send you directly down to Date Street, and it'll have an arrow. And as far as you can see out, there will be a round green dot, so you can see where the access route goes. And then when it gets down to Bowden Street, where it takes a left, and you've got to head up Bowden Street, there'll be another access route sprayed on the floor on the road with a arrow going that way. And then we're going to get it all marked up, so the town will have these markings on the ground, but they won't be on poles. And that's the other thing. We're going to buy metal poles to put the signs on, but when you go out and start driving a metal sign pole in somebody's tree belt, you usually confronted right then and there. I know it would probably have something that Ralph would probably have to do, and I don't want to put that on his crew. They got enough work going on right now, so we're looking to make it better so people know where they're going. And one other thing, there's discussion around the state right now, and because a lot of other communities like Chapman and where there's a lot of ATV going on, we have taken the stance that we want the ATVs to the side of the road, but the majority of the communities now, they want them traveling with the traffic. So what's happening is people are coming in from out of town, and they're riding down the road, and they don't know that they're doing something wrong. So we're trying to, even in ATV Maine, we're trying to get something together that's gonna have a standardized thing. Now, of course, it's always up to the community, because that's the thing, once you come into the community, you come under what they want. But, I think it's going towards that. We started out with being on the side of the road, but I've seen a lot of people, some of the elderly people, they get by them, and they don't be able to go by them, because they don't know if they're gonna go out or what. Whereas if they're in the road, then they're going with the traffic. And same goes when you come down, put off Scott Avenue, you have to get in the road where the light is. A lot of places you have to get in the road where the stop signs are and stuff, so we'll talk about that at a later time too, but just something to chew on and think about. And, I'll be back to talk to you about that. Because with this new paper that I put out, we're gonna definitely talk about that some more too before we put it out, and I definitely want your input on it, because it's a decision to be made by the town and the lawyer. So besides that, that's all I've got. So
That's all, huh?
that's it.
You've been clearly busy.
Well, 7 years of stuff built up. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go to the council for comment, but I have to just say thank you so damn much before I go to anyone else. Just thank you for all your work, Councilor McEwen.
I echo that, thanks. I know you've been working with this as long as I've been on the council, and it's tireless at best, I can only imagine. Networking with all the groups in the state and getting these trails open. Thank you, John. When I was listening to your presentation, a couple of thoughts came to mind. Would it be possible to put that map back on just for, oh yeah, I see, yeah, there's that one too, but one of the things that you brought up was signage, and I think that's really important, along the wilderness part of the trail. Something I'm sure you may be aware of is that EMS in the state and wilderness medicine in the state is becoming increasingly demanding, especially in those remote rescues and all that jazz. Having a clearly marked trail, and as you're concerned, people going off on a different logging road, that can cause issues. But then when I look at the map and actually see there's EMS access to the Huber Road, the Stacyville Road, so there are points where people can get that access. And thank you for bringing up the trail, the side by side, that we would monitor this police department before it's separated would go through that trail using that resource. So I think that's extremely important to make sure that that's utilized as before. And if there's grant funding for that as in the past, that's a plus just to cover that cost. I just think it's great that we're seeing this finally come to light, and it's you. So
Well, just to answer you on that, on the trail signage, you might have noticed a few by the hospital and some other places when the post office redid the job down there last year. All the buckets that come out of that job, we got them. And I've been making what they call bucket signs. So they're a bucket, 5-gallon bucket with a 2x4 in that's screwed into them. And the signs are on them, and then you fill them up with dirt. They don't go anywhere. Because I don't know if probably none of you have gone out and tried to drive a signpost in these trails around here. It's all rock. And you never can put one where you want it. So I've been putting out almost 40 of them so far. I got another 40. And everybody that's seen them, it's been complimented on them, because number one, the bottoms are bright green or yellow, the posts are orange, and then you got the regular sign. So, and it made it so I can put them right where they need to be, and signage is the key thing. So,
and my only other point, I happen to live on Bowden Street, and I would say there's a vast majority of people that do follow, that are courteous with their ATVs. So I want to make that clear before I say the next point. There are some bad apples, but with bringing up what you said before, the education piece, even though there's, getting that fully worked out legally, what those rules are going to be, that's already in the plans, is educating and getting those. And there's always going to be some bad apples. I fully in favor of the parks and recreation industry, tourism. So it doesn't bother me. I know there's some people that might get a little bit more ruffled with some like very late after dark riders that shouldn't be there, for example. But I think that's among the few, and we're always going to have that. But this is going to, with this connection, there's going to be a substantial increase. And I still won't be bothered, but it's good to know that you're going to have that education piece in the background to hopefully tamp that down, because we all know that there's some issues, but I think the benefits of this do outweigh some of the speed bumps, if you will say, to get over.
We call it the 1%ers.
Yeah. And thank you again.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Councilor Bragdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thanks. I mean, I've seen this picture before, but I am so happy to see this come to fruition. I love ATVing. I love snowmobiling. This is a dream come true. So this is fantastic. And I do want to point out, putting the signs on the road, I feel like it's extremely consistent, and I like it way better than putting signs. It's obviously going to be different placements based on poles. Being in one consecutive area every single time, I feel like it's consistent and there should be no mix-ups. So I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned where you're going to put the signs on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Councilor Maduro.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have we had the discussion with the police department as far as having officers that will go ahead and do the trail riding? Before, when we had Millinocket had its own police force, there was never a problem. We had officers designated to do this overtime work for them, and the funding was there. We could do it. Have the discussions been taking place with the East Millinocket Police Department to see if we have coverage, continue on with this?
Well, I think what happened was Kevin didn't know that we were doing that. So we last year, it slipped by him. I mean, it was a big undertaking. He didn't know about it. And at the first year, I was like, wow, there's a lot of it going on. People doing crazy stuff around here. And the reason was because we didn't get that early, didn't get them out early enough. So, because all it takes is usually 2 or 3 tickets and they learn real quick. So, that didn't happen. And then you just had the free for all the summer. I mean, I must have talked to 15, 20 kids, and I talked to them to try to explain to them that they get a good thing. I'm not going to yell at them or holler at them or anything like that. You got a good thing. We've never had that. We raced up and down the street, so we didn't get caught by the cops, so we could get up to the trails. Now they can access it. You just got to use your head. You got to go slow. You can't be crazy wheelies. You can't drive at night with no lights and stuff like that. Just real simple stuff. So they do have the grant. I talked to Don Tuesday when we met with the grant. They've already got the enforcement grant. They just got to start doing it. And because it's a matter of fun, and they do it with people that are on the days off.
Right. I was wondering if they had enough officers buying in on it, so the schedule could be filled to keep the agreement and to take care or have a police presence on the trails, make sure we're in compliance.
I think they will have. I think they will.
Other than that, you know me, John, you and I went back a long ways. It's always been a great thing. It's always worked out well. Worked well with the ATVers and snowmobile club in general. And I don't see why it should change. And we've always worked with a pass-through situation with the town of Millinocket, make it as easy as possible and as fluid as possible. And waiting for reimbursement on these expenditures on these funds. We've done that several times over the course of the years, waiting for grant for monies back from the state of Maine to go ahead and reimburse the town of Millinocket for monies that we've expended to be able to get work done in a timely fashion with the snowmobile club and ATV club. I don't see why you cannot continue that process. It's worked well in the past. I'm sure it will work well going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dorr. Councilor Danforth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Raymond. You're a great storyteller, your history of the project, and as others said, because you really led this charge for the community, and I appreciate it. And I like how you're really safety minded. That's really important to me. And to hear you speak about all the issues or how you're going to address all those are very, very favorable. I like how you talked about just mapping out the route around town, painting on the tire and everything. I do believe I saw the infographic that was created yesterday that probably got out there too soon. And I thought, wow, what a great idea. We really need to get this out there in information. And I was wondering how that information was going to be spread and shared. So what I'm hearing you say now is like, it needs to be tweaked, it needs to be approved. But I really appreciate it because it really laid out the laws and where you can and cannot go. And I think that's a great step.
I would like to see it as a handout when they register their ATV too. And we'll print them out. Once we get the finalized piece, we'll print them out and bring it down to Diana. You register your ATV, you get a handout. It's pretty hard to say they didn't know that.
And I think it will lend itself to education just to community members, residents. Are they supposed to be, on my street and know exactly where the
Right.
route is? I did have one question about the grant. Like, once you submit it, when will you know if you're awarded the funds so that you could then start the work?
I would be a little bit, we'll know within a week, 2 at the max. We want to get going on it.
Thank you, Council Danforth. Any other council comment? Council Gray?
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Council Gray. Mr. Manager?
What I haven't really heard celebrated yet, although everything's spot on and all appropriate thanks given. The increase in traffic from this as word spreads as being the only place that you can get from that side from one side to the other. The increase in traffic has a pretty big potential to provide positive economic impact to our community. These people will be stopping on their way through for lunch. They'll be staying overnight during their trip. This is over a decade's worth of work here, pays off and trickles out. It ripples out into the local business owners of our community as well, and it impacts them and their bottom line. So it is an expansive effort, and I think that the recognition is there. Yeah, thank you for your dedication on that. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any other council comment? Seeing none, that of the public. Mr. Dumais?
Question for Mr. Raymond.
If you can come up to the mic, name and address.
Jesse Dumais, 10 Somerset Street, Millinocket, Maine. Mr. Raymond, you mentioned that in most communities that they travel with the flow of traffic, actually interacting with traffic. Right. I know that around town it's with a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit for ATVs. Does that mean that they will go the 25-mile-an-hour speed? I mean, they're kind of already doing it in most places that we see sometimes the bad apples, but can you tell me how that works in other communities?
They travel the posted speed. And the reason at the time when we started this, we put 10 miles an hour because we knew they were going to be going 25. If we'd have put 25, they'd have been going a lot faster. So just so you know, I have no hidden agenda here because I do not own an ATV or a snowflake. So I'm not doing this for myself.
Thank you, John. I would not have guessed that. Any other public comment? None in the chat? No. Thank you again, John. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And thanks for the total support over the years from the council.
And with that, that brings us to order number 117. Out of order, Councilor Bragdon, if I could have you read that, please. Wait for you to dig for it first.
Thanks. Order number 117-2022, providing for authorization to sign ATV Trail Project Grant application. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council authorize the town manager to sign any legal documentation to apply for municipal grant for Northern Timber Cruises ATV Trail Project.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Biden, seconded by Counselor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Congrats, John. And we're going to take a second just for us to all sign them while we're all here, if that's all right with everyone.
I only asked, so that moved up because I got another Zoom meeting to go to.
Were you able to make a copy for me? Scan it to me? Because I won't have one of the signatures. Thank you. I'll even give you all my little post-it sticky notes.
All right, thank you, everyone. And with that, we'll go to town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As usual, report submitted. Hope that everybody had an opportunity to read through it. It is also linked on our website. I will not be reading it in its entirety, so I encourage folks who have not seen it, who are interested in what's going on within the municipality in regards to the content of the management report. I would suggest that you visit millinocket.org under the town council section, where you could see the manager's report listed in the meeting packet. At our last council meeting, there was discussion on potential use of ARPA funds outside of the intended use during that order, and a question regarding surveying the public for responses. So together with the treasurer and the town clerk, we are working on a plan to have a survey available at the polls at the primary election on June 14th. Yes, thank you. So that survey will be on the way out the door. I plan to spend as much time as I can that day, possibly our community initiatives director as well, to encourage folks to participate in that survey, to share their feedback and input. It will outline specific areas of spending, potential example of each area, and then give an open comment section for more creative feedback, if you will. So that is in the works. Matt, if you could show the picture have loaded. We, together with Denise DeVoe from the Northern Forest Center, we have officially submitted the order to have our wayfinding or regionally branded wayfinding signage printed. Once we receive the order, we will be, Ralph and the Public Works crew will be installing the signs throughout the town. And, you know, this project started, what, 3-4 years ago, I believe, initially, in partnership with many people weighing in. The ATV clubs were there, local business owners, community leaders, partner organizations. This project has been touched by many over the years. The original incarnation of Denise's position, Ailish Keating, had been there in the beginning. Brittany Gruder had spent much time with her experience at the Northern Forest Center working on this project as well, along with many other people and partners. So it is extremely exciting to see this example that we have on the screen. That is the very first sign that was printed. That is not the location of the sign. That was a photo by the printer. That is what they will look like. That is the theme. And there will be many other signs placed throughout the town for this wayfinding mission. So a huge thank you to those who worked on that throughout the life of the project. As far as the tech upgrade, the manager's office is now fully equipped. He used the new equipment successfully this morning in the Economic Development Committee meeting, and I can say it is an absolute night and day experience to the hodgepodge setup that we had been using previously. I think others in attendance would agree with that. So next step in the tech upgrade is to assemble the AV cart with new equipment for our room here, and we will have a much more flawless approach to virtual aspect of our meetings. So I've talked a number of times the past 5 months about more productive and creative ways to reach a broader audience in our community in sense of communication and using current modes of communication. So together with the Community Initiatives Director, we allocated some funding from her, the setup of that position to introduce communication platform that will allow us to create, disperse email newsletters, as well as much more up-to-date email information, specifically, but also communicate through text message to give updates and on upcoming public meetings or agendas or reminders of council meetings. Community members will be able to sign up through online access. We'll have a link on our social media site in the near future, as well as our website. They'll also be able to sign up here in person. But this will, I believe, allow us to engage with much more people in our community with, the current ways we all communicate. I think that we saw great feedback from instituting this at the school, but not this exact program, but back in the fall of this past year, the new communication program was put in place. So now, school cancellations, major updates, you get a text message, you get an automated phone call, you get an email. We'll be able to do that. That's really exciting. I think we'll actually see increased engagement from that. We will reach a generational expansion, if you will, to those that are more apt to check their email or see a text message rather than read the local newspaper. So I think that will be great improvement to our communication. Very excited about it. We have received an increase in requests for action from community members regarding the derelict properties throughout the community. So myself, the code enforcement officer and health and safety officer will be we've begun meeting weekly to address the matter. We'll be going through the process step by step. Each week when we meet, we'll lay out what has been done and then map out the next steps for the upcoming week. And then we'll continue that process until we find resolution. So I hope that that relieves some stress from community members who are very often making requests for action on that. We did have Jim Pino here from the Small Business Administration, Senior Area Manager, to hold the office hours that we spoke of a couple of months ago. We did have a few members of our business community come in and take advantage of speaking with him about the resources they have to offer. We decided that we will move forward inviting him here on a quarterly basis. So once a quarter, he come in for the afternoon, take advantage of unused space in our general assistance office and be there to be available for business owners and potential entrepreneurs are looking for business resources or what's available, small business administration. Team Millinocket did participate in the Katahdin Region Higher Education Center career fair. It was a great opportunity to bond as teammates and discuss the great employment opportunities working for a municipality. The event was not very well attended, which was a concern of many. There were 30 plus great businesses of all different backgrounds and levels of positions available. It was a concern to see the lack of attendance. So we will continue to do outreach and advertisement there to see what we bring in. We are continuing to work on arranging a now potentially public meeting between the town council and school board to address some recent issues around an incredible amount of miscommunication. We are looking to resolve that and the unnecessary tension that is there to move forward on the same page. More to come on. I do want to offer a very large thank you on behalf of the town of Millinocket to our community member, Robert Smith. Robert noticed the visible wear on our flag being flown here at the municipal building. Took it upon himself to reach out to our fire chief and offered up a donation of a beautiful 10-foot by 20-foot brand new American flag that is now being flown outside. And he made that donation in honor of the service people from our community who had served our country. So we would like to offer him a very big thank you for that very generous donation. Before I get into department updates, I would like to make note that the age-friendly action plan submitted by Councilor Danforth and all of those who touched it along the way has been officially accepted and is now recognized on both the state and national level. So that is very exciting news and very happy to have that declaration of being an age-friendly community on state and national registry. In the world of public works, they've been taking off the snow plows and putting on the mowers and still working on patching potholes that have popped up from plowing, other road damage. They did start doing the painting that the Public Works Department does themselves in terms of line and arrows and lanes around the intersection downtown today is where I saw them. They do a great job of that. I was happy to see them out this early in the year. With the transfer station, they did bill the unorganized territories for the 6-month payment They receive that payment twice a year, and it's noted here that we did end up with a 10% increase on them for each of the next 3 years for the negotiation in our new contract, which started last July. So we've begun to see those 10% increases. In the world of wastewater, we identified some ancient technology. Surprise, surprise. We are working on replacing their computer for their operation out there in the office. We identified that the computer they had been working with became obsolete in the year 2013, and their internet speeds were similar to that of dial-up. So we have made the arrangements with our contract name technology group to have their technology upgraded. Turns out it was included in our contract all along to have that placed at no additional cost to the town. So we're pursuing that, and then, as you know, in the upcoming budget, we have planned to increase their internet speeds through GWI. All is well in the world of human resources, general assistance, bookkeeping. Know that Lori did notice missing report. Dana, did that get shared? Okay, so the monthly data report that everyone loves so much was shared. Do not have access to it at the moment. Oh, look at that. Wonderful, thank you. So you can see the numbers for the month of April. There is a decrease in need for general assistance, as well as an increase in other aid programs that have popped up in the past 2 years. At the airport, the traffic has been picking up pretty significantly the past month, as well as the sale of jet fuel and aviation fuel. I love getting the pictures from Jeff, almost daily of planes and jets flying in, and him and his guys out there with the jet fuel truck filling them up. Exciting to see all that traffic and know that is a worthwhile investment. Also, some of the airplanes out there, they handle transfer from wheels to floats for season. It's actually quite a process. I haven't seen it live in person, but I've seen a video of what they do locally. And when they switch to have the floats put on, what happens is they put that plane on a trailer, and they drive the trailer down the runway. Once they get to a certain speed, the plane is able to take off with the floats without any water. It's quite a spectacle. I would suggest that you take advantage of going up there and watching for it someday. The stuff that they do at that airport continues to amaze me and be a point of interest. In the world of our treasurer, there is a lot of work being done now preliminarily on the FY22 audit with RHR Smith. That process is being done remotely at this point. So there's a lot of scanning and emailing involved. She has attached a report of the school special revenues budget as of 5/16. As of that date, $1 million remains from the 1.5 reserved and approved by the council. The ESSER 3 grant has expenditures currently of $115,137. No reimbursements to date. What she understands, that process, the reimbursement process has been held up at the state several months. We continue to look for updates on that. Also in the treasurer's department, we are preparing to submit another group of wastewater liens. Currently, we have 90 plus unpaid accounts, totaling about $24,000 in fees and interest. So our code enforcement officer is really working his tail off on the studying and planning for his trainings and tests towards certification. I've been extremely impressed with his desire to succeed in that role. Doing an incredible job, working lots of additional hours to get that studying in to train towards certification. So very happy with that. We've seen an increasing number of permit applications. We would encourage those in the community who are doing anything on their properties to do the right thing and to approach us here at the town office about proper permitting. Recently, I've covered some properties in town that had to be approached, and they had to be informed that their pretty substantial investment into their property recently was actually not legal, had to be removed. So that is always an upsetting conversation, and we don't look forward to having it as much as the property owner does not look forward to receiving information. The recreational department summer programming flyers are out in the public and the schools. They are also listed on social media. There's some great programming happening this summer. And yes, that includes the pools, contrary to popular belief from yet again misinformation on social media. Pool is set to open June 20th. Please do not believe everything you read on Facebook. In the world of our community initiatives director, Amber recently submitted a grant for the Libra Foundation, and what that will do if awarded is replace the what's it called, Tom? Turnout gear, PPE equipment for the fire department. Many of those suits have been in need of replacement for quite some time, and we're thankful for her for identifying that opportunity. That is a grant that does not require any local match. Feel very strongly about our chances for it. Later in the agenda this evening, you will see an order for a grant proposal for the Maine Infrastructure Adaptation Fund with the Maine Department of Transportation. That is a grant proposal that Amber has spent much time on, and the goal is to obtain mobile generator, the size of which, or capacity of which, I guess, be able to run any one of our pump stations for our wastewater facility, throughout wastewater infrastructure throughout the town. So it will be mainly used for those generator failures that we see on a kind of a rolling basis, help offset the cost that we have to pay to rent replacement generators from other companies. And for the small match amount for roughly $8,000, that's an incredible use of our community initiative director. So I am very hopeful that we are awarded that grant. Aside from, in addition to wastewater, that specific unit that wastewater superintendent Jim Charette reached out for the informational quote of, that will be able to plug into any of our municipally owned buildings and operate the electricity to keep the heat running. We lose power into a severe storm or emergency throughout the winter. This has multiple connections that will be able to run any of our buildings and be towed around town as it's mounted to a trailer to make sure all of the buildings are kept in working order throughout those emergencies, as well as potential for additional power sources for community events. So this is really a win-win-win on multiple levels. Again, I'll note that throughout this report, I am only reading some very highlighted information. There's even more than what I'm gabbing on about. With the town clerk's department, I'll note that the FY 21-22 real estate property tax balances, as of May 23rd, we have a little over $217,000 remains unpaid. That's related to 269 accounts. Yeah, and am I reading that right? And then that's for real estate, and for personal property, we have $10,800 remaining unpaid for that. So we do request that any members of our community who have unpaid real estate or personal property taxes still do at this point that save those payments as soon as you're able to take care of them. It sounds like the new wastewater billing method has been getting some very positive feedback from a majority of the public. They appreciate the look and convenience of payment options, and they find it easier to locate. So it's very good news there. Absentee ballots are now available through the end of the business day, Thursday, June 9th. You can vote here in the municipal building at this point in time. It's wonderful. All right. Other notable items there that, is this right? The 2023 ATV registrations are, ATV stickers are now available. And a note to the public, planning board is in need of one alternate seat on the planning board available now. So if there's any members of the public who are interested in serving on that board, learning about that part of how the municipality works, we would encourage you to put in a application of interest. Tom and his crew with the fire and EMS department have been quite busy lately, responding to multiple fires within our community, and a really bizarre increase of fires all in one short stretch of time. So very appreciative of having that crew here, the willingness to all that they risk while they go in and fight those fires, as well as the EMS calls that are received on a daily basis. It was pointed out recently that last week was EMS Appreciation Week, and there are so many of those that it is difficult to keep track of, but we do not want the much deserved recognition to go unstated. So we have a huge appreciation for this crew and their dedication to our community, and I want them to know that with complete passion. I've attached the police department report. There is lots of great information there. A couple of notable items down at the bottom, aside from the usual information. They are partnering with the Millinocket Regional Hospital's Legacy Foundation to raise money for the Oncology Center. They are selling EMPD uniform patches for $10 a piece, and the money raised goes to the MRH Legacy Foundation to support that oncology center. That's a great effort. They've also applied for several grants. Recently continue to beat the drum about additional needs for resources around mental health and substance use disorder, noting bulk of calls and time are associated to that level of work. As mentioned recently, each second meeting of the month, we will be including in our department reports, the Millinocket Memorial Library report. And they have some notable items on here. We do appreciate Diana's participation in this. It's very good to have this information to, you know, help express this to the community. They were able to add to their team by making use of the youth workforce program through the Eastern Maine Development Corporation. It's an incredible resource that we have right here we have a local representative, Kevin Gregory, based in East Millinocket, former co-worker, former school board colleague, mine, great guy. He offers this program. They were able to add 2 youth to their team who will be operating helping to operate the gear library this summer, which, by the way, is now relocated in front of the Boreal Theater here on Main Street. And gear library and the actual library are now both open on Saturdays. So that's a big improvement. It's somewhat limited hours. I believe it's 10 to 2. Don't quote me on that. But it's great to have access to both the library and the gear library on Saturdays. I just constantly watch them make improvements to be more accommodating to the community, and that's great news. They do have some grant funding coming in from congressionally directed spending of 2022 cycle. They'll be making some investments into their capital projects and installation of solar panels, as well as some different site work and work to the building, both exterior and interior. And they have some other work that they'll plan to consult with the town and other stakeholders on to get their input. They also have a whole paragraph here on new programming offered and the continuation to come up with new programming. I really suggest that if you're not familiar with the information in this report or the constant implementation of new programming at the library, I would highly recommend that make yourself familiar with that at the Millinocket Memorial Library website or by stopping in to learn about those programs. One more fun update before I close this lengthy manager's report. We all know that the former councilor Randy Jackson is opening the Boreal Theater. First private event is tomorrow night, but Saturday night at the Blue Ox Saloon here on Main Street in Millinocket, there will be a fundraiser for the Boreal Theater. It will be the Bald Hill Bluegrass Band featuring some locals. That band is headed by Renee St. John and Kim Chassie, many of you know. For the night, they will have a special guest drummer for the evening and company vocalist. That'll be your town manager, Peter Jameson. If you want to see what he does in his personal life, come on down to the Blue Ox Saturday night, listen to some great Grateful Dead music, bluegrass fashion, and support and raise money for this great new community resource we have. I'll hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. Any council comment on manager's report? Councilor McEwen?
Thank you for the very detailed report. I have no other comments other than just all the kudos to the wayfinding project. Selfishly was involved for a little period of time on that, but really there were so many players involved, as the town manager mentioned. And I know Ailish Keating was mentioned as well. And she really, just a note for her, when I was sitting on my living room couch thinking I was going to take a nap, Ailish was like, hey, can you take a look at this document? So just another one of those amazing people in this community that saw that this needed to happen and got the ball rolling. And it's just one of those efforts that, just thank you for those notes on that. Very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Councilor Maduro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the ARPA survey, will the council be given a copy of the survey for peruse over or look for before the survey is out to the public on that election day?
No, you will not be allowed to see. Sorry, yes.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to comment on is thank you very much for starting to work on dilapidated structures around the community. It's a situation that has long plagued the town of Millinocket, and coming up with an action plan moving forward of how to proceed to take care of some of these places, I think it's long overdue, and I credit you and your staff for getting on it now and trying to move forward as expediently as possible. As far as I would like to say thank you to Mr. Smith for his donation. I think that is incredible and much appreciated. It looks great. The Boreal Theater, I got a chance to have a tour of it Sunday. I stumbled down looking for the bakery to be open. It wasn't open. And Ann and Randy managed to convince me that coming back and helping plant trees would be a great way to spend a sweltering and humid day until such time as the thunderstorm came. So, yeah, the three of us did a lot of work down there, but it is going to be a great addition to the Main Street and much needed. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking part in fundraising for that place. I think it's only going to be, well, it's a safe. But it's thank you for taking part in fundraising, be part of helping that move along. As far as I noticed that we're down a firefighter EMT injury. Do we have a timeline as far as how long? Because I know we've been talking about how the fire department is understaffed as it is. We have an opening, now we have a firefighter down. So do you have an idea?
I'll know, my hopes are that I'll be back to work next Friday.
Okay.
Back on payroll Monday. That's my hope right now.
Thank you very much.
That mic was off, but for those online, the update was that we expect that firefighter to be back to work next Friday.
Good.
Say that.
Yep. I also thank you, thank Denise, Bo, and everybody involved with signage. I think it's been great. I see a lot more of it around the community. And other than that, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Maduro. Any other Councilor Bragdon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the wayfinding project is a great thing. I'm glad to see an example. Those signs look awesome. Library, I can't say enough about them. They do everything. They always find a way to improve. Uniform patches from East Melanocka Police Department. I think that's fantastic. I think it's a great way to get some community involvement. So kudos to them. Robert Smith, thank you so much. That flag is amazing. I love driving down Main Street and seeing it every day. As for the tech upgrade, I also want to point out the broader communication that will also bring a ton of people. I've already heard tons of people that are waiting with anticipation for us to improve our tech so we can reach more people in the community. YouTube's obviously been a big success, so I'm glad that we're continuing the theme of community outreach. As with the school, I'm very concerned with how it's written, Mr. Manager, and if you could correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but it says application issue. Is there an actual issue with the application, or is there an issue with the state processing applications?
I don't, I don't believe I have all of the appropriate information to answer that correctly at this point in time. I believe the treasurer may have more information if she's available to speak to that at the moment. I've been somewhat adjacent to that procedure.
Mary Alice Collins, treasurer. I can't get into the specifics of what's going on at the state with the application. I have been following up on the reimbursement because the account was growing and there was no reimbursement coming in from the state. So that was, and I know the applications that had, the reimbursement request is 2 or 3 months old. So that was the information I got. I can't speak to anything. I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to speak to anything beyond that. That's information I found in just trying to monitor the reimbursement request and raising the issue because the expenditures were growing and there hadn't been any money that had come in from the state.
I guess I'm still confused on whether or not it's an issue at the state level or it was an issue with the school's application. Is it looking like this money, the $300,000 is going to be reimbursed?
Well, this is the first request. And since then, there have been additional expenditures to the account, but they can't, the school can only have one request in for reimbursement at a time. And it was my understanding that they had to fix the application for an item.
Thank you. It's very concerning to me moving forward. That's a lot of money that we've put on the line. So I hope that this gets resolved in a timely manner and in a correct manner. I agree with Mr. Manager about the rumor about the pool. I think that would turn into something that it should not have. There was a lot of miscommunication around that, as with most things on social media. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Biden. Councilor Bray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the report. In reference to the ARPA funds survey, we have about, I think it's somewhere around 3,600 people registered to vote. I suspect this primary will probably have 300 or less people voting. And I suggest that we kind of consider some way that we might do a lit drop or something. I don't know if the school still has any seniors that need to do a project, but providing maybe a copy of the request about how to spend the ARPA funds be dropped at the 280 homes that are lived in Millinocket might be a way to at least get it out to more people than the 280 that might show up to vote on a primary. There's only one primary election on one side of the political spectrum. So I don't know if it's going to be a high turnout. There's no referendum questions to bring anybody else out to the primary for voting. I'm willing to come down and help on that day to distribute it to those people, but I just think that we need to reach a broader group of people, of taxpayers and citizens in the town. Congratulations on the wayfinding to Denise and Northern Forest and everybody else that's worked on that project. And going forward, I want to thank you for stepping up on the derelict properties in town that we have. And I suspect we're going to have to do some charter review, charter changes, maybe increased penalties or something in the town charter to for people that don't take care of the properties. I'm anxious for us to have a meeting of the minds, meeting with the school board and clarify the council's interest in financial matters, not to control them, but to at least be aware of them. As I've said several times, the school board has a responsibility to make sure that kids are appropriately educated and the funds are there. The council has a responsibility of raising the taxes to pay for that. So they're the spending side, we're the paying side. And I think we need to have a clarification on that. Thank you to Robert Smith for that flag. that's out there. I suspect that we're probably going to have another one sooner than we replace the last one because it's a thinner material. Just being aware of that, you might want to put another one in the budget or something. And they don't come cheap. MSW on the transfer site. One of the things in one of my previous jobs in DC was we were fined when we used initials, not explaining it. Under the transfer station, 6-month payment for MSW, which is municipal solid waste. But for the public or anybody reading it, I just wanted them to be sure they knew it. On the cemetery, thanks to Public Works for the work they're doing up there. And again, thanks to Bob Healy for his attention in repairing a lot of the stones that had been tipped over or have fallen over and whatnot. I do, back to the town treasurer, I also follow up in reference to concerns about this, and I appreciate her efforts of staying on top of that. And following those funds and keeping us on the council informed. I appreciate it being in there so that we're aware that we're still waiting for some of those funds to come back. It mentions that the working on getting the pool up and running. Do we have a date? Is it June 14th?
June 20th.
20th, okay.
Don't post that on Facebook.
It would take a day or two, a week or so, okay. In reference to Community Initiative Director, I appreciate the work she's doing. Could we get a council members on references when we're applying or working on various research grant opportunities that we know what's being requested or what's being worked on? It's kind of a list. In reference to the town clerk and the trade and the town clerk's report on unpaid taxes, the 269 represents 11.4% of our property, our household residential properties. We got about 2,400 houses that are a little bit under 2,400 houses that are actually occupied, but of course there's 269, like I said, 11.4. About $800 per house that hasn't paid, and understanding that liens are put on properties that's already 18 months late. And so we're really talking about, by the time these things get handled out 2 years later, the other taxpayers are picking up the difference in that. I understand some of these people may be in financial difficulties, but they should come in and speak with the town manager about either trying to work some process out on those. I thank the town clerk for answering several other questions that I had previous to this. And with the one last question I have, again, on initials or on the police report, third up from the bottom, one refusal to sign a USAC. Do you know what a USAC is? I don't, and I've dealt with sheriff's office and police officers for a number of years. I'm just curious as to what somebody refused to sign, I guess, but thank you.
Thank you, Council Prey. Manager is Googling what USAC, I think is what you said.
Failure to stop at stop sign?
We can get it.
I feel like it's a notice to appear maybe or something.
Like they want to sign his ticket.
You'll get your answer, I'm sure, Council Prey. Council Pelletier?
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Manager's still on the subject.
It was, I initially didn't raise my hand about my Google search. To your point, Councilor Prey, about ARPA survey and the expected low turnout at June 14th polls in comparison to our entire population of the community. I wanted to point out that the use of our new or coming communication platform will be able to take that survey and share the link anywhere through email, social media, website, and gather that data for anyone in that convenience. I think that the polls will definitely capture a fair amount of people. But once we have this constant contact program implemented, we'll be able to send that survey out in a digital form and collect that data with great ease.
Mr. Manager, I agree that that's all going to help, but there's going to be a lot of citizens in town that aren't into the tech age and whatnot, and I think that it's a question of how can we reach them? How many different ways can we go out and try to reach as many people as possible on that? And I do appreciate the effort that you and Councilor Bragdon has put in advancing some of the technological skills that we have. And one item I did forget to say, I wanted to thank Councilor Bragdon for the work that he's done on the Millinocket stream race coming up here in June.
I haven't done a lot other than recommending where to go. So I kind of just pushed it.
You've been pushing.
Thank you, Councilor Cray. Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you. Really like to thank the town manager for a very lengthy and concise report. So I'm glad it's being done monthly in this fashion. I won't bother echoing, I'll echo all the councilors' positive remarks. Certainly agree with them. Do want to point, give a thank you for the treasurer for responding to our concerns in preparing the report on the budget.
Can you bring the microphone closer to you by chance?
Sure.
Yeah, pick it up, it's fine.
Anyway, yeah, thank you the treasurer for that school clearing account budget. A very good tool for us to have track of the cash flow that our own. Yeah, you did all the buttons for me on the report, so we can bring it in the library. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Pelletier. Councilor Danforth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last but not least, just a couple points. I want to bring recognition to you for the tree planting and the canopy project that you're bringing to fruition. I know Councilor Medora had his hand in planting some small trees. Did you see the really big holes and the really big trees that Councilor Goldie brought on the back of his truck and his trailer for that project? Anywho, anyway, I just wanted to bring recognition. That's one other project that's coming to fruition. And perhaps you can, explain where the rest of the shrubs and what else is going to happen with that. But that was something that was started a while ago, and that's really going to help our downtown corridor. I'm looking forward to that in all seriousness. And then just finally, I know we have the East Millinocket Police Report again, and it stands out around the mental health issues is listed there. I just wanted to let you know that I did meet with Kyle Leathers, selectman from East Millinocket, and they're working on the application, the county opera application, to get some funding for a social worker to work alongside with the police department in our community. So coming forward, there will be a potential letter of support from the town of Millinocket. I'll work with him and I'll work with the town manager on that to support their application so that we have extra assistance here regionally to address it. It's just one strategy and many strategies that need to happen in our community, but that is underway. I just want to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Danforth. Councilor Brandon.
I don't know if this is appropriate time to ask, but to my own knowledge, I know last meeting we had talked about not allowing Zoom comments in the near future due to our charter stating name, address, et cetera, et cetera. When are we planning to take that into effect? I just would like to know so I know how to handle over here a little bit better.
We do have a procedural policy that we adopt annually as a council. I know that we made some amendments to that to deal with Zoom, but I'm not sure that the chat itself was addressed in that manner. So perhaps we should bring up procedural policy and review that for a future council meeting. That works for everyone. Mr. Manager.
Our last meeting, we addressed that it would not be read as it's not documented in the minutes of the meetings. Also, I was the one reading them, and it's, there were there were a lot of them, and I was not performing well at that point in time. So I think the general rule at this point is not to read them unless maybe they're stated as public comment.
I was asked earlier to read the comments that there were none of, but so I just want a clarification.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor McEwen?
I think maybe making sure that there's some language in that policy is a good thing to get implemented or updated, but unless there's a disability preventing someone from speaking the public comment, since they're attending on Zoom, I don't think there's any reason why that shouldn't happen. It's really easy for someone to, for a lack of a better term, keyboard warrior or something in a chat. I'd like to hear them say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Councilor Maduro?
I believe that, I agree with Councilman, and I think it's getting to the point now where if people want to be part, want to have an active council meeting, that even if they are joining via Zoom, that name, address, and an actual face, and they have to go ahead and give out their comment, not necessarily have something that's typed in a chat room to be read by somebody else. I think it's gotten to the time now where we're starting to have public meetings again. People can come here and participate in person. I think the time of chat rooms, things and chat lines are open now. If they want to be part of this via Zoom, they can put their face and their name and address as they're supposed to identify by charter or comments during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Maduro. Diana?
I would just confirm that that is the exact policy currently in place. You will have to state your name and address. Somehow, if you aren't able to speak, as Council McEwen stated, with a disability, you most certainly can use the platform of chat, but chat is just chat. Video is not necessary, but stating your name and address is.
Thank you, Diana. Councilor Bray?
Yeah, we're recording all of this. The chat is recorded. But if you want to make a presentation to the council, I think has been described, is we do the face, the address and the full name, as we have talked about before. That's what we've always been doing since we initially started. I think on a couple of occasions, we let somebody speak without clicking on, but I think we just need to continue that. That's the purpose of public input.
I'll just mention briefly that the meetings are recorded, but the chat does not transfer into that meeting recording when the file is saved. It's just the video and on.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
So moving forward with this meeting until the policy is set change, do you want to read the comments? Do you not want to read
I can just do a straw poll and I'll follow what the council feels. Should we be reading them this meeting or change it for next meeting? So all those in favor of reading it still for this meeting? Got two hands and all those not. All right, so we will not be reading it. Congratulations, Matt.
Sorry.
But just for the public, as Diana mentioned, that is our existing policy. We obviously went through COVID and there was a lot of adjustments that we had to make, and so did you in the public as well. So this is following our existing policy. The public will have a chance to speak to this and any other issue on the manager's report shortly. So if you do have a thought on that, just turn on your mic and state your name and address. Sorry, Councilor Peltier. Your mic was already on.
They want to use the raise your hand.
Yes.
Everybody speak at once.
For the raise your hand function, you will not have to have your video on. If the council feels that we should change that in the policy, then we can. Mr. Manager, yes?
Sorry, one more thing, just very briefly. There is a comment in the chat at this point about maybe not knowing how to operate the program and,
Councilor McEwen?
I think if you're attending on Zoom, you do need to know how to operate the program, with all due respect. There's options for you to get in here, and if it goes into the fact that it's a disability, and there's a great concern of that, I think it would be appropriate for you to reach out to the town manager, and you could get some sort of arrangement if there's a disability involved. But in generally speaking, if you're using that platform, I would suggest you have full audio and video capabilities at your household and be able to utilize the program as it's intended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager?
all due respect, if I could just finish my thought briefly here. I was going to suggest the digital literacy programming at Millinocket Memorial Library that does offer information on how to operate these types of programs, and they are a great resource for anyone in our community who is unsure of how to operate the program. They would be they'll be more than happy to assist you in learning.
Great suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councilor Madore?
Just real quick, I hope the video part is there because it gives verification of identity. I mean, somebody can come on as it is now with a name across and identify themselves, say something that may or may not be that person's thought or may not even be that person. I personally think that the video part needs to be part of that simply for identification as well as being able to identify themselves and their address.
Thank you, Councilor Madore. If you do want to make a change to the policy, you're more than welcome to put in an order for making an amendment on that. Councilor Bragdon?
I would also like to offer my help to anybody that does have questions with Zoom regarding the town council meetings. They're more than welcome to reach out to me before the meetings, and I will do what I can to make sure that you can comment during the meetings. If I can't handle it over phone, I will do my best to try to resolve it remote connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Just a few thoughts on the manager's report here. For the wayfinding, just big thank you to Alish for really starting that whole process. Brittany for seeing it through, and it's really great for us to actually have these signs here and for coming here anyway. That can be applied all around the region. I think it'll create uniformity. It'll give us a modern update, which is I think definitely needed in that area. And something that I will be bringing to the council soon from the Economic Development Committee is proposed changes to the ATV snowmobile trails so that they can go through downtown. That's been a huge request from a lot of businesses. So that will come, and with that will come the need for signage, very good signage that will also use that same theme, assuming the council is okay with those proposals. And $2,000 has already been offered from the 4 main downtown organizations, so that could pay for a substantial amount of signs. A big thank you to Alish and the Northern Forest Center for starting that. Big thank you to the manager. Every manager's report, it seems like so many issues that we've been seeing for years are just getting checked off the list, or at least focused on, and it's just so relieving and so nice to see all of these things being focused on, and a huge thank you to the staff who carry a lot of that work out. It's much appreciated. Also, thank you to Robert Smith for the flag donation, and a thank you to all those who have served our country as well. Mary Alice, I did have a couple questions. It was my understanding that when we set aside the $1.5 million in the unassigned fund balance, that only chunks of funds will be taken out at a time, and then we'd be reimbursed, and then they can take out more monies to be reimbursed. There was kind of a process to that. It sounds like there's a holdup on the reimbursement and more expenditures have been made before the reimbursement. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I know you talked about that, but I would need specific instructions on how to do that. You know, there's $1.5 million and and I am monitoring the spending of the $1.5 million. And as you can see, it's gone down. But if you want this to be controlled, that there's so much reimbursement that comes back, then I would need very specific instructions on how to manage, you know, monitor that part of the process. I'm just tracking the $1.5 million.
Thank you, Mary Alice. I think that was our understanding as a council, that it would just be in chunks to be reimbursed at a time. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think what I think what I think that, as I recall, in the case of the ESSER funds, that was going to be spent over a period of time, with a bulk of it happening this summer. But as far as, you know, what you're talking about, no, that was, I know it was discussed, but it was not, nothing was resolved on that.
Okay, Councilor Craig?
Yeah, I think we don't understand enough of how the school administration is spending the money, the ARPA funds that we're fronting up, putting money up front for. Because I think there's several projects that are going to be being completed at different parallels at the same time, but ending at a different time. So they make those applications once they've completed what their requirements are and reporting it for the reimbursement. So I think there's going to be multiple applications out to be reimbursed that will come over as they're processed there, that will come back at different levels. We have a cap on that as to how much money we're making available, but until we understand or have something from the school administration as to where they see that going, if they would give us kind of a calendar as to, we're spending this now, we've got this project going, we've got that project going, starting at different intervals, then we'd have a better feel for how that flow is going to work. I also suspect if we want, we could request from the state how they're processing these things and when could we expect that, so we know in managing our monies that we're giving to the school system. I just don't think we have enough information of where we're sitting at this
That was
moment.
one of the reasons why I was following up on that's one of the concerns I had when I was looking at the ESSER funds, that there hadn't been a reimbursement that had come back and we were continuing to spend. I was a little concerned that we're kind of early in, you know, from my perspective, we're early in the process, but maybe we're not at the state level, because they've got a lot of applications, I'm sure, for reimbursement.
Please.
And I think there's 178 or 189 school systems, and they're all spending their money and making that application through a single office.
So yes, so we could, yes, that spending can continue, and if there's a bottlenecks at the state or how they're able to process these applications.
Yeah, it would be helpful to get more information on that process. And I think it highlights, well, it's still my response to manager's report. So that we understand, you know, how these funds are being expended. But I think it also highlights the importance of just communication. And I think really speaks to the importance of us meeting as two bodies to discuss this and understand one another and what our concerns are, what theirs might be, to hopefully get them resolved. Councilman Madore, did you have something?
Yeah, just my understanding when we had the discussion about fronting the money for these projects was there was a certain number of projects that had time sensitive for the summer months, parking lot, construction jobs that had to do around the school and that were time sensitive as far as being able to get contracts, laborers, and everything else involved, and being able to pay and have money available up front to pay these costs. But the vast majority, I believe, after those projects are done, is monies that would be, projects would be during the school year and would be something that would be easily or more easily reimbursed because they would be spread out a little bit further. But the first cluster, this was my concern anyway, was being the reimbursement from the state of Maine, getting it back to the town in a timely fashion after the money was already issued out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Fedora. Council Pelletier, if you can make it brief, please.
Yeah, certainly on that same issue. My recollection is that we fronted $1.5 million and they expended it as they want or need during the summer. We all voiced concerns about having it reversed timely so that we wouldn't have to put out the other $1.5 million for that one, the same cash flow, so to speak. Yeah, there's a $3 million COVID grant out there that they're working on.
Thank you, Council Pelletier. Hopefully, we can have a meeting set up soon to discuss this. And I think that's it for me. Any public comment? Susan D'Alessandro, you have your hand up? Name and address?
Hi, Susan D'Alessandro, State Street in Millinocket. One of my first questions was already answered, I think, about the ARPA survey, because I was thinking of the absentee voters who may not be at the polling place, but I think you pretty much covered that now. And I want to thank you for the newsletter and for all your efforts at transparency and accessibility. And I want to thank Councillor Danforth for highlighting the ongoing mental health and other issues and the work that's being done with the police department. And I continue to be amazed at the great things that the library does. And I also wanted to say that given the most recent situation in Texas, the ability to work with the schools is even more important now than it ever was for many different reasons. And I wanted to thank Councillor Bragdon for offering to help people with the technical issues, because there are a fair amount of either elderly people or people who can't attend for other reasons, and they can't just run up to the library and take advantage of the programs that they offer there. So it's really good of Councillor Bragdon to try to accommodate people and the ones that can't come to the meetings and, you know, maybe do want to participate and don't have the technical knowledge. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Any other public comment on the manager's report? And seeing none. Moves us into new business. Councillor Danforth, if I could have you read order number 104, 2022, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, order number 104-2022, providing for execution of the town warrant for May 26, 2022. It is ordered that the town warrant for May 26, 2022 in the amount of $57,675.85 is hereby approved.
Motion by Councillor Danforth, seconded by Councillor Prey. Heavy hitters?
Yes. $5,077 for Bloomer and Russell legal services. $8,269.25 municipal review committee. Those are our tipping, our disposal fees. $2,000 RHR Smith and Company, the audit process that's begun. $8,842.86 Versat Power, that's electricity. And $2,126.88 World of Flags USA. And so those are the flags at the cemetery for our veterans. And one final one, $15,639, and that's to Bernstein, Shirt, Sawyer, and Nelson. Those are also legal fees.
Thank you, Councillor Danforth. Any other council comments? Seeing none out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. And Councilor Danforth, if I could have you also read order number 105, 2022, please.
Yes, order number 105-2022, providing for execution of the wastewater warrant for May 26, 2022. It is ordered that the wastewater warrant for May 26, 2022, in the amount of $19,560.43 is hereby approved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Danforth, seconded by Councilor Prey. Heavy hitters on that one?
Yes, there's a couple, $7,600 of town of Millinocket, those are for quarterly administrative costs, and $3,161 Pierce Atward LLP, those are legal fees.
Thank you, Councilor Danforth. Any other council comment? Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Order passes 7-0. Councilor Pelletier, if I could have you read order number 106, 2022, please.
Certainly, order number 106-2022, providing for approval of application for reappointment to the Board of Assessment. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council approves the reappointment of George Martin to the Board of Assessment Review for a period for a 3-year term to expire May 2025. No, George's application for reappointment was received on May 17, 2022, prior to the expiration of his current term.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Danforth. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, just thank you for submitting for that. That of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Councilor Bradley, if I could have you read order number 107, 2022.
Order number 107-2022, providing for approval of application for reappointment to the Board of Assessment Review. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council approves the reappointment of Ems to the Board of Assessment Review for a 3-year term to expire May 2025. No, Amy's application for reappointment was received on May 17, 2022, prior to the expiration of her current term. If approved, fulfills the board's commitment.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Bradley, seconded by Councilor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Order passes 7-0. Councilor Madore, if I could have you read order number 108, 2022, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Order 108-2022, providing for approval of an application for victuals license for Chicago General Store LLC. It is ordered the attached application for a victuals license is hereby approved for Jamie Brundrett and Michelle Brundrett, Millinocket, doing business as Chicago General Store LLC, 60 feet.
Second. Motion by Councilor Madore, seconded by Councilor Bragg. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Councilor McEwen, if I could have you read order number 109, 2022, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, order number 109-2022, providing for approval of an application for a victualler license for Circle K. It is ordered that the attached application for a victualler license is hereby approved for Max Convenience Stores LLC, PO Box 347, Columbus, Indiana 47202, doing business as Circle K, 4707-113-719 Central Street.
Second.
Motion by Councilor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Danforth. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Passes 601. Councilor Prey, if I could have you read order number 110, 2022, please.
Order 110-2022, providing for approval for the application for a vehicular license for Baby Ruth Takeout and Snack Bar LLC. It is ordered that the attached application for a vehicular license is hereby approved for Jennifer Bowman, 30 Crestmont Avenue, doing business as Baby Ruthie's Takeout and Snack Bar LLC, 190 Penobscot Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Prey, seconded by Councilor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Councilor Madore.
I just want to say welcome back. Thank you. I think that it's wonderful to have or being back in the community again. I look forward to a great summer for you, and just thank you very much for bringing that back to the community.
Thank you, Councilor Madore. I'm sure same could be said for all of us up here. Thank you. Any comment from the public? Yes, Diana?
I just wanted to note the update of the status of her application with the handout that I had for the inspection.
Thank you, Diana. Any other public comment? Seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Councilor Pelletier, if I could have you read order number 111, 2022, please.
Order number 111-2022, providing for date, time, place, warden for the June primary election. It is ordered that the state primary election will be held on Tuesday, June 14, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Stearns High School Gymnasium. And it is further ordered that Michael Key shall be the warden of said election.
Motion by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Bragdon. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, that of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Just in time, passes 7-0. Councilor Bragdon, if I could ever read order number 112, 2022, please.
Order number 112-2022, providing for processing absentee ballots for June 14, 2022 state primary election. Whereas Title 21-A MRSA Section 759(7) allows the election board to process absentee ballots while the polls are open, and whereas processing such ballots will assist the elections clerk and results in an expedited process after the polls are closed, and whereas expediting the process after the polls are closed will result in some savings to the town of Millinocket. Now, therefore, it is ordered that the election warden is authorized to process absentee ballots at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. during the state primary elections on June 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Bragdon, seconded by Councilor Danforth. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, that of the public. Also seeing none, back, oh, Diana.
I just wanted to update the status of the absentee totals, 19 as of today,
Thank you, Diana.
which is not 2,000 from prior year. So as you can see, we most certainly may not need the 11, 2, and 6 p.m., but I'm hoping absentees would be requested if they need them.
Thank you, Diana. Any other public comment? Seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Councilor Madore, if I could ever read order number 113, 2022, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Order 113-2022, providing for office hours of the registrar for the June 14, 2022 state primary election. Whereas Title 21A MRSA Section 122 subsection 6 specifies the process that the registrar must follow in registering voters, and whereas the town clerk also serves as the registrar, and whereas the town clerk has regular hours for 4 business days before election day to register voters, whereas being open evening hours as required by law to receive voter registrations will be an added cost to the municipality. Now, therefore, it is ordered that it is not necessary that the registrar be open to accept voter registrations for 2 hours in the evening between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. on at least 3 days before the election.
Second. Motion by Councilor Madore, seconded by Councilor Bragdon. Discussion of the council. Councilor Pelletier.
Yeah, I'd just like a clarification on a question I have. Does registration occur on the day of voting at polls?
It most certainly does. I am there, and I also have 2 at that registration table when you first enter in the lobby. So yes.
That's what I thought. Certainly no reason why anybody who wants to vote can't vote.
Thank you, Councilor Pelletier. Any other council comment? Seeing none, that of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Councilor McEwen, if I could have you read order number 114, 2022, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Order number 114-2022, providing for personal property tax write-off. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council authorizes the tax collector and/or treasurer to write off uncollectible personal property taxes totaling $748.88 as of May 13, 2022 for the following businesses. Name: 1, automatic vending and games, amount $103.60 year 2015. 2, Robert Duvall, amount $29.60, year 2015. 3, Ed Sear and Sons, amount $216.08, year, $216.08, year 2015. And number 4, George Pelletier, amount $399.60, year 2015, totaling amount of $748.88. Note, the tax collector's request to write off personal property taxes is the result of 2015 bills being over 6 years old and deemed uncollectible and or billed in error and past the deadline for the assessor to correct.
Second.
Motion by Counselor McEwen, seconded by Counselor Bragdon. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. And Counselor Danforth, if I could read order number 115, 2022, please.
That's order number 115-2022, providing for recognition of Juneteenth as a federal holiday. Whereas in June 2021, the state of Maine governor signed into law a bill designating June 19th each year as Juneteenth. And whereas Juneteenth is also recognized as a state and federal paid holiday in which all non-essential state offices must be closed, it is now ordered that the town council recognizes June. Am I saying that right?
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. I'm saying the extra E in there. June 19th of each year as a federal holiday for all union and non-union employees.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Danforth, seconded by Counselor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Counselor Cray, just turn your mic off, and Counselor Doyle, your mic's on.
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that June 19th this year falls on a Sunday.
Thank you, Counselor Cray. Any other council comments? Seeing none, out of the public. Diana?
So that means that we have the following Monday off for our,
I don't know, I haven't read the state law or the federal law.
I believe in our policy of having paid federal holidays off. It follows to the next business day, whether it be the Friday or the following Monday.
Well, thank you, Diana. I'm sure that's something that will be looked into.
I believe she's very.
You are very right.
That's correct.
It has been looked into and you are right.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Cray.
I would just like to point out that the month of August is the only day that doesn't get a holiday.
If I may, I have a birthday August 5th.
So moved.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, back to council. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Counselor Cray, if I could have you read order number 116.
Order number
2022, please.
116-2020, providing for council direction on funding international program FY22 budget in June 2022, whereas order 85-2022 approved for the continued funding of the FY22 international program until the end of May. It is ordered that the council direct the treasurer to pay the international program warrant through the end of June. And it is also ordered that the international program will transfer any remaining revenues to the Millinocket School Department FY22 tuition international program revenue line. And any shortfall in this revenue line will create a liability to the international program fund. The FY22 tuition international program is $75,000.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Cray, seconded by Counselor Danforth. Discussion of the council. Counselor Cray.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have the treasurer come and give a little bit broader explanation. My understanding of what my concern is that why we're not just directing the school to pay this out of the international fund, since the funds are in there fairly weak at this time.
Well, I mean, if you look at the revenue line of the school budget, I mean, there's unorganized territories tuition and there's international program tuition. In the back part, in the back part of the general budget reporting, there's the revenue, the clearing revenue accounts that we call them. And that, I believe, is where they track the administrative expenses of the program, that you keep that outside of the tax part of the program. And, you know, the expectation is that these revenues that come in are going to cover those administrative costs, plus cover the tuition costs for these students. Call them private pay students, whatever you want, okay? I mean, they're non-resident students. And so I think there's just some straightening out that needs to be done as far as what the expectations are of this program. Because the revenues are received in the backside of the budget, if you will, these clearing accounts, but yet then there's a revenue account in the general fund. So a question I have is, why isn't the revenue just being recorded directly to the operating budget? Was that your question? I mean, I
Well,
don't.
I understand what you said. And again, this is a little bit of that fuzziness around the accounting side of the equation. This order has the town paying the 75,000.
No,
And
no.
we're getting the money back from the fund?
No, this order is saying at the last previous meeting, the issue was raised that there were not going to be sufficient revenues generated from the program to cover the tuition that was the budget that was in the school's budget.
That was where they had a $49,000 shortfall.
So the question was, are we going to continue? I needed permission to continue to pay the expenses of the program. So what this order is saying is, if there's any revenues left that have not gone towards the school, the administrative expenses of the program, then those revenues are going to transfer over to the school's budget, which they should anyway. This is not a revenue account. This isn't an enterprise account. I mean, it's the school's assets that are being used for this program. So the revenue belongs to the general fund of the revenue to the school department's revenues.
But the shortfall is 49,000, so we're, the town.
No,
or the
what's gonna
school system.
happen, I mean, no, what's
I
gonna
just want to be
happen?
clear.
Yeah, no, the town's not gonna fund that, no. What this is saying is, if the budget falls short, if you want to know that the budget fell short, then we'd have to create an entry that recognizes that there was a shortfall in the reporting, it would not hit the fund balance per se on the school side.
Thank you, Councilor Frey. And this was to ensure that the program wouldn't experience any issues if they had any expenses for the remainder of the school year. So this ensures that the expenses associated with that program will be paid so that the students that are currently here won't experience any troubles, the school won't experience any troubles. Obviously, there are more things to be worked out, but this at least makes sure that we're not causing any issue with students that are here. Any other council comment or manager?
I just wanted to add that I had a meeting with Superintendent McNaughton and Josh Deacon, the business manager, as well as the administrative staff of that program just the other day. So there were some outstanding questions that I was unable to answer in that moment, but we are planning for a follow-up, and we are hoping to have them back on June 9th. We had talked about addressing that further on June 9th during the council meeting. Also hoping to have their budget that evening as well.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any other council comment on the order? Seeing none, out of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Matt, what was your, yep, all right, passes 7-0. And Councilor Bratton, if I could have read order number 118, 2022, please.
Order number 118-2022, providing for approval for purchase agreement of 2 striker power cots. Whereas the town of Millinocket Fire and Ambulance Department has a need to replace 2 older power cots, and whereas there is an opportunity to purchase the equipment under a 5-year payment plan of $12,595.28 per year, with the first payment occurring in fiscal year 23. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council approves the town manager to sign the necessary paperwork to enter into the lease/purchase agreement on behalf of the town.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Bragdon, seconded by Counselor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Seeing none, that of the public. Also seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Order passes 7-0. Counselor Madore, if I could have you read order number 119-2022, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Order 119-2020, providing for replacement of foam loader mower in partnership with Arcata. Whereas the town of Millinocket and Arcata are parties in an equipment use agreement regarding a 936E cat loader, providing the opportunity to perform necessary work toward readiness for economic development at the One North Industrial Site. Whereas the loader's motor failed early into this agreement after limited normal use of the equipment, and the replacement of which is estimated to cost approximately $20,000. It is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council, acting in good faith, authorizes the town manager and/or treasurer to disperse half the cost of the motor replacement from the undesignated fund balance upon the completion of the work, up to but not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Madore, seconded by Counselor McEwen. Discussion of the council. Counselor Bragdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I still hold the same stance that I held when this first came up. The fact that there was a user agreement in place, both parties got to read it, both parties signed it, that there is still an agreement that we had in place, that it would come back to us in working order. They've asked for us to hand over the loader. They've asked for us to completely replace the motor, and now they're asking us to split it, or we're being asked to split it halfway. I just don't think that was a part of the original agreement, and there should be no reason we have to cover this. The agreement states that they have to cover the repairs, and it would come back to us in working order. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bragdon. Counselor McEwen.
I can yield to my fellow colleagues that had their hand up before I did.
Sorry about that. Counselor Pelletier.
Yes. I agree with Councilor Bracken, but in good faith and with our partnership, which needs. But I do have a little heartburn on it, and that is, I wouldn't want to be passing an order that would, as a precedent, change the intent agreement the way it's worded now. I'm making a motion that, and it is the ordered line, strike the words acting in good faith out and add acting as an acceptance to a one-time payment or one-time exception to the equipment use agreement. That way, the intent of the original agreement stands.
There is a motion.
Second.
And it's been seconded. To change, it is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council, acting as a one-time exception, and so on, striking in good faith. Discussion of the council. Councilor McEwen.
I think with all policy decisions, in our efforts to rebuild this area and enact in good faith, I don't necessarily think it's good to shoot ourselves in the foot that this is our only exception. I think it should be. But I'm just saying, once we get to that next conversation, hopefully someone remembers this one exception that you put on this piece of paper. Certainly, I'm not going to be in the room when that next conversation hopefully occurs. But I think we are acting in good faith, and I'll end my little soapbox here shortly, but I was in full support of the order before the amendment anyways. There comes times where good faith really does need to shine through. over what's in black and white. And I worked on a lot of policy up on this board too. But I think there's still something you see in this deal that was out of the realm of what's really expected in mechanics and in this deal. It's in good faith. Regardless of where the amendment goes or what verbiage is put in here to satisfy whatever. I really think we should let this continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Any other council comment? Councilor Prey?
Mr. Chairman, I've had problems with this since it was brought to our attention. My understanding, the contract that was presented to the town was written by Alcatraz in reference to getting the equipment, using the equipment, and a commitment that if anything went wrong, they would take care of it. That's a contract signed in good faith by all parties, presented to us by them. I have also, a couple of conversations with individuals said that they believe what happened, I'm not a mechanic, that they were having problems with it. They let it sit there and cool off and started up the next day and revved the engine to the point that it then threw the rod. That was people not understanding what the problem was. Thus, it was created, instead of looking at it, evaluating what it was, fixing why they were having the problem in the first place, created the damage to the equipment. We have bent over, the town has done everything they can to help this company. And this is a minor amount, but it just kind of leaves a very poor taste in my mouth in reference to how we're being treated as a town and the taxpayers. We all want them to succeed. And I think that the contract that was offered to us by them should be honored by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Prey. If comments from the council can be limited specifically to the motion that's on the floor, we can talk about the bigger picture after we deal with this motion. Any other comments on the motion and the second? And that of the public? Yes, Mary Alice.
Mary Alice Collin, 99 Minuteman Drive. I think this speaks to the use of town assets, and maybe that should just be limited to the use that the town assets stay with the town. I mean, as far as this loader goes, this is of value to Public Works. It was taken care of at Public Works. It was used by people that know how to use that equipment and take care of it. I think this sets a precedent that we shouldn't go down that road, because what about the next request? You know, for other people to use it or other pieces of equipment. I think it's public, it's the taxpayers' equipment, belongs to the town, and I think it's best that it just stays with the town.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Any other public comment on the motion second? And seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? 2, all those opposed?
In favor
Of the amendment, yes. All those abstain? Councilor Danforth, how did you vote?
So I was waiting for the clarification. So the amendment is what we're.
Yes,
voting on.
just for the amendment, which was, it is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council acting as a one-time exception rather than acting in good faith. So I can redo that vote. All those in favor of the motion for the amendment, and all those opposed? So it fails 2-5. Back to the original order. Any comment from the council? Councilor Bragdon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mary Alice brings up a great point. Ralph has already said that they can use this loader, and they have used it, and it is an asset. If what Councilor Prey is saying is true, This order states it was limited with normal use. If they were revving this equipment beyond its needs and damage the equipment without knowing how to properly use the equipment, then this order is flawed. We don't know if that equipment was used properly or not. And there's too many ways to figure out whether or not it was or not. They had a contract in place, as Councilor Gray mentioned. This order is contradicting the contract that's in place. If that equipment was not used as it was supposed to, we are giving out $10,000 of taxpayer money for no reason. We need to find out if that story is true or if it is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brad, and I'd like to offer just my own perspective for a minute. I don't feel like having a good faith relationship, which is what I feel we have, should lend us to being this nitpicky on issues within agreements on the grand scheme of things, especially in the dollars and cents of what our relationship comprises of, at least economically, should get anywhere near affecting our relationship or the good faith behavior that we've had between the two groups. I feel like some of the concerns is almost acting as though we're exposing ourselves in some way, like we've done something, like we would be doing something so shameful. I think it's so normal for a group of volunteers who have really started with just tiny community projects and then in a very short span had to learn how to become basically international industrial developers, that they are allowed to have learning experiences just as we are as a council. We've certainly made our own mistakes, and not implying that they made a mistake. We don't know what happened. None of us were there. So hearsay, I don't think should be any part of this discussion. But if it was a mistake, it's a mistake. And they brought in what, $13 million worth of infrastructure development into the town with grant funding. And they're looking for a $20,000 fix to a loader that can help them with that. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for this to affect any part of our relationship, which I think has been very positive, I think it's just not worth it. And we should work with them in addressing issues as we both, as different parties, learn how to evolve to the demands of our town and the types of developments that we're trying to achieve. None of us know how to do it individually as boards. We need to work together. So I feel like this is an opportunity to exercise that good faith relationship that we do have already. Councilor McEwen?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to caution the council that I would. Can you hear me? No, it's. Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to caution the council on using that hearsay. I really hope that didn't happen, but again, we weren't there. Okay. So we really got to be, if you heard something, maybe it is true, but I certainly wasn't there. I'm certainly not a mechanic holding my ear up to the, while they're doing their tests. I'm not, we can't step into that territory. We shouldn't step into that territory, quite honestly. That's my opinion. And I'll continue to support this order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Councilor Pelletier?
Yes, well, I'll still support the order, not having the language change I requested. But, and I take to heart your statement, Chairman Goldie. That's the very reason that, I'm willing to go this road. They're splitting it with us rather than as they came in prior, to try to get us to pay the whole amount. And then give them the equipment. But you gotta recognize these people are now running a budget that rival ours. So $10,000, $20,000 to them, I'm sure they got plenty of lines to cover that. So it's almost a matter of principle that, you know, they would put out something, sold it to us in a prior council. And whatever happened or whatever understanding might have been across the table that wasn't on paper, just doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I agree to this because it's important that we continue our relationship. And on that note, we should update that relationship. The agreement has not been taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Pelletier, and I do want to also caution on speculation. We don't know their budget lines specifically down to the grain of salt and what funds are specifically designated for. Fine if you have a concern, but I just want to caution speculation. Councilor Danforth?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the words that you spoke in support of the magnitude of work that Architect has done for us. And I voted down the amendment because I don't want to strike out acting as good faith. I do support this amendment. I do support this order as it was written. And I know our town manager spent a considerable amount of time researching the agreement and sitting down with Steve Sanders and came to this agreement and put it forth. And I appreciate his effort and I support the order as written.
Thank you, Councilor Danforth. Councilor Madore?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. My understanding is even with this order as it stands right now, basically all we're doing is splitting the cost of replacing the motor. The loader will stay with the town of Millinocket as per the original agreement. It won't be going to anybody else. It'll still be our loader. It'll still come back to the town of Millinocket if necessary. So it's just a matter of splitting the cost of the motor. And I personally have no problem with that. I think it's so eloquently stated that I think sometimes you have to do things in faith. And I think our partnership is more valuable than $10,000. And we've demonstrated that in the past. So I will support this order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Madore. Councilor Cray?
Mr. Chairman, it's being pitched here that it's a pro-Arcatagan and an anti-Arcatagan. That is not the issue. We have been supportive of that organization. We wish them success. As far as I'm concerned, we don't need a contract. Because if they don't want to stand up to it, all they got to do is come back and say, oh, well, what we presented you last time as a contract proposal, we can't stand behind. I think that's a poor policy, whether it's $10,000 or $100,000. If you're going to sit there and start saying that contracts don't mean anything, then why have a contract to start with? Let's just lend it out to them. Let them use it. If it breaks, maybe we can negotiate that they pay for half of it again.
Thank you, Councilor Cray. I think it was a clear issue of miscommunication. I don't think Arcatagan is trying to take advantage of the town or an agreement that we have. I don't think there's also a dynamic of whether we're for or against Arcatagan either. I think it's a matter of, as I said before, acting in good faith. That really was based upon a miscommunication, in my view. Councilor Bragdon?
The policy for people to use our equipment obviously needs to be updated, as has been stated. But how many times is a contract going to be breached and we do something in a good faith for thousands of dollars just to maintain a good relationship? If we're spending other people's money, including our own, and we're doing it, I feel, selfishly. We haven't taken into account any of the situation that's actually happened before. We were all against paying for a motor altogether. Now we're okay with splitting the difference because it's less money. There's still a contract in place that's being breached. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Councilor McEwen?
My intention from before was never to just have them full front the money. So when you said our agreement wasn't to do anything before, just remember that there are 7. And it wasn't my opinion on the front of this when we first had some meetings. Granted, there's some other sessions that can't be released in public because we had those sessions, but going into this, I didn't make up my mind that this was not gonna happen or it was gonna happen. I got some details, and there are several instances that occurred which needed some mediation. I don't think that we're gonna start looking at all the contracts that we've done and, okay, now all our contracts don't matter. I think there's a lot of validity in the contracts that we have, including the one we do have. There's a lot of clauses in there about how that operation is gonna occur. And there's one piece in there about the mechanic failure that was, you know what, an oversight. And then real life happens. So I think everything has the opportunity that discussion should have, but I just want to let everyone know that, you know, my mind wasn't made up in the get-go. It took a lot of information coming my way to come to a decision and some intervention. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McEwen. Councilor Madore?
I'd like to call for the vote.
Yeah, I'll just go to the public. If the public has any comment? And seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? And all those opposed? Passes 5-2. And Councilor McEwen, if I could have you read order number 120, 2022, please. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, order number 120-2022, providing for matching funds commitment for a grant application with Maine Infrastructure Adaptation Fund with Maine Department of Transportation. Whereas the Community Initiative Director has identified potential grant funding for the town to purchase a mobile generator to be used by wastewater and the town in the event of power outages and generator failures throughout the wastewater infrastructure, it is ordered that the Millinocket Town Council authorize the town manager and town treasurer to commit $8,528.01, amounting of $4,264 from E2600-0612 wastewater collection, public works, utility, miscellaneous service, and $4,264.01 from E2800-1395 wastewater capital improvements, slow runner repairs at the 5% matching funds for this grant.
Motion by Councilor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Madore. Discussion of the council. Just a thank you to our CID Director Amber and you as well, Mr. Manager, for going after this grant. Any public comment? Seeing none, back to the council. All those in favor? Order passes 7-0. And with that brings us to reports and communications. Warrant committee for the June 9th, 2022 council meeting will be Councilor McEwen and Pelletier. Both good with that. Any chair committee reports? Councilor Bragdon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The events committee will be meeting for a final time before the 4th of July to discuss what's going to be going on. It's the community's last chance to put in public comment. There's a ton of things that we'll be discussing, including parade start time and lineup time. So I really appreciate it if people would come out and give their opinion. There'll be a lot more to discuss too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Any other chair committee report? The Charter Review Committee had a couple of members need to step down due to conflicts in schedule and work. So for the public, we will need one more public member to volunteer to serve on the Charter Review Committee, which basically is reviewing the town's charter and coming up with suggestions on recommended changes that would then be reviewed by legal. And ultimately, after that process, put out as a referendum for the council to approve, put out as a referendum for the public. So anyone who's interested in partaking in the charter review as a public member, feel free to go on our website, Millinocket.org. There's applications for being on committees. Reach out to our manager at Millinocket.org, or myself, s.goleb@Millinocket.org. It would be greatly appreciated, and I know we'll probably post about it online as well. And the links will be available for that. We'll also need to fill a counselor's position as well, so I'll be speaking to some of you offline. Unless, Okay, I heard otherwise.
I saw that and I thought the clerk corrected that there was a miscommunication as to.
I did actually, yes. There was a miscommunication with the emails, I believe Mr. Wallace had. So it was Sherry Downs, do I have that right? Sherry Downs had requested to step down. Mr. Prey is still on.
The 2 meetings ago, I was in the hospital. In the last meeting, didn't realize it until about an hour and a half after it had started.
Yeah, it wasn't about your attendance. I had heard through email miscommunication apparently that hearsay.
Yeah, well, that's what happened.
Anyway, so there's only one position that needs to be filled. So what I said earlier was right. Councilor Prey is perfectly welcome on the Charter Review Committee to stay there and enjoy our good times together. Any other chair committee reports?
Just to clarify, the last meeting was not held to lack of a quorum of meeting members.
Thank you, Councilor Pelletier. Yes, we're also looking at rescheduling the meetings to accommodate everyone's schedule. And we'll hopefully start holding them in the library as well once we pick a time. Any other chair committee reports? Councilor Frey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're concluded on doing our business.
2-minute public comment.
Oh, almost got away with it.
Anyone from the public have a comment for the 2-minute public comment section to address the council? Chief Malcolm?
Malcolm, 73 School Street. A couple of things. I want to thank Mr. Smith publicly for the flag. And also I want to thank the American Legion Post 80. They donated new flags for the Veterans Memorial Park as well. So, and some updates. There will be no Memorial Day parade. I checked today and I finally got verification from the Legion. They have nothing planned. But remember, Saturday, May 28th, Summit Project is coming to Millinocket again. They have every year. They're scheduled to come through here at about 3:30. So everybody that can, please try to line up Central Street and Penobscot Avenue, down, make the swing up Penobscot Avenue, Main Street, around to go to New York. The back and carry the stones up. Monument of lost of service people. So I've already contacted East Millinocket and Medway. They will have their fire departments out. We'll be out on that corner. Urge all community members to get out and welcome them. I know in the past we've always put on a good display and they really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Malcolm. Yes, Councilor Danforth.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Is it 3:30 there's expected to get off the Medway exit or actually be in Millinocket?
3:30 there. The schedule says 3:30, they're gonna leave Medway. We've found in years past, that's always been a little bit odd, so. I'm asking people to line up like around 3:30. It may be 4:45, maybe 4 o'clock before.
Come down at 3 and have an ice cream.
You got 3 and have an ice cream. We'll go to the bakery.
Thank you, Chief Malcolm. Any other public comment? And seeing none, Councilor Frey.
Mr. Chairman, as everybody knows, Monday is Memorial Day. I'd like to move that we stand adjourned in remembrance of those who have served our U.S. military and given their lives defending this country.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Frey, seconded by Councilor Madore. All those in favor? We're adjourned 7-0.